To me, people have asked me what the worst thing about my disability is. And my answer always is able-bodied people's perception of me based on my disability, not the disability itself.
This is Intentionally Ever After. Join intentional lifestyle coach Joe Bukartek for a series of personal conversations and coaching sessions with various people about how living with intention shows up for them.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Intentionally Ever After. Today, I'm very excited to chat with the great Michael Humel. Michael, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yeah, Mike, will you kindly introduce yourself to folks?
My name is Michael Humel. I'm originally from New York. I've been in Las Vegas for about 20 years. I used to have a arts and culture blog for years. I'm a writer. Newest venture right now is I have a website called Wheels and Warriors. It's a website. My mission and my goal is to change the way able-bodied people think about, interact with, and perceive disabled people, and just to improve accessibility and disabled life. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I have a website and all my accounts for that. That's just what I'm doing. And as far as my hobbies and things like that, I like basketball, lacrosse, tennis. I'm married and I have a dog. She's almost 2. And I've been married for a little bit, 2.5 years.
Excellent. Almost to 3. That's the hump, right? Yeah, nice. So what's your connection with your mission and purpose?
I have spina bifida, so I use a wheelchair. And it just came to me one day that I'm a writer and I've been writing since I'm 16 and I'm 43, so it's been a while. And so that's just seemed like a great way to marry the two things, to make that my mission. And it just came to me one day that I'm a writer and that's what I should be writing in service of, is just helping people.
That sounds very intentional, Michael.
Yes, it is.
So let me ask you, what does it mean to you to live intentionally?
To me, it means to live intentionally, to know what you want to do and live it fully and go all out, whether you make a mistake or not. Just do what you can do in service of everything in every aspect of your life that you want to make happen, like as far as your relationships or your job or your mission or anything like that. Just do it fully and go all out and don't give up and be thoughtful of what you do every day.
Wow. Okay. I love it. So, what would you say to folks who say, "Well, I don't know what I want to do." What would you recommend to them? How would they live intentionally?
Well, recently I've figured out that, for me at least, this worked. Be vulnerable, add your emotions, and ask yourself hard questions and be honest. That's how I believe breakthroughs happen. That's how I believe you get answers. You figure yourself out and figure out what you are supposed to do. You just are honest with yourself. You ask yourself hard questions, and you do the hard work. You become introspective.
What's an example of a hard question someone should ask themselves?
Well, it sounds simple, but who are you? Why were you born? What's your purpose? What's your mission? What's your passion? Why do you have the inner thoughts that you have? And how can you change them if they're not serving you? Or just some of them.
No, those are some pretty good ones.
Thank you.
So, when you're asking yourself these hard questions, just you specifically,
Mm-hmm.
what's kind of your process? Are you just sitting there thinking? Are you writing? Are you in a certain setting? Are you by yourself?
I write at my desk. I write down the answers, and I just think about like what each answer means. And basically, I just do homework as far as like examining those answers, so that I can get better answers or reframe the answers that are in my head, so that I can make them more cohesive to my mission or my goals or where I want to end up or where I think I should end up. Be happy
Ooh, there we go. To be happy.
Yeah.
Is that the ultimate goal here?
Well, yeah, of course. I think to me, anyway, it's definitely the ultimate goal is to be happy. That's what life's all about.
That keeps things pretty simple, I think, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, life, I mean, okay, mental issues aside and anything that is problematic around you aside, life doesn't have to be that hard. It can be simple if you break it down, if you only think about the basics of what you need and you don't make anything too hard or too like big. You just break it down. It can be simple.
I like that. Now help me reconcile these two ideas, keeping it simple.
Hmm.
But you said, you alluded to some things that aren't so simple, that aren't easy, rather, right? And it's things like mental issues,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
That you had said.
Yeah.
So how do you marry those two thoughts together of trying to keep things simple in the midst of dealing with these very real challenges?
Mental issues is where it gets hard because I have depression and I've had moments of depression where there's been weeks where I didn't want to get out of bed, and I have thought about killing myself. I never would, I never would, but I thought about it. But I think mental issues aside, I mean, not aside, but I can't speak to it fully because I don't have as deep issues as other people do. But if you talk to people, have friends that you confide in, you take medicine if it's prescribed to you, you keep a tally or a book or something that like you can look to. This is what makes me happy. These are the activities I like to do that make me smile. Those help that, and that'll get you at least not through it, but you know it'll help greatly to get you past it or through it or working through it to keep going, and that'll allow you to make everything else simpler. And I think that'll think you'll be able to work through your issues. Is just be mindful and just have friends that you can speak to, and just do it that way.
Yeah. So it sounds like what you're talking about is insisting upon support that helps.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the way I am, it's funny. I've told my wife this that her aside, if I never saw anybody ever again in life, and I was told you can't, I'd be okay with it. I'm an introvert. I don't have to be around people, but there are people that need that support and need that
Sure.
shit and need that conversation and need to be around people. And that does help greatly. And there are times, even though I'm an introvert and quiet, there are times when I've been in a room full of people and felt completely lonely. And that's a very hard place to be.
So how do you get out of that place? Not physically, because I understand how you leave a room,
Yeah.
but when you find yourself feeling really alone, yet being surrounded by people, how do you move forward from that?
Well, first of all, for me, what works is be comfortable being by yourself and asking those questions because those questions will fulfill you or should fulfill you. Fulfilled me and they gave me good answers. And if you ask those questions and they give you the answers and it gives you a direction to go to change your life and change your intention, change your direction, change your life, change everything that you need to be changed, it'll fulfill you and just it'll take away that loneliness.
That sounds pretty powerful.
Thank you.
So, what is one change for you in habit that has had an exponential payoff?
I've never been good with consistency, so I've forced myself to be consistent, and that gave me momentum. And as far as is writing, working out, doing the little things that push me farther to my goals, that has helped greatly. Even if I don't want to do something, or on the surface I don't want to do something, I forced myself to do it to get it done, and that just made my life better, pushed it forward.
So, do you see that as being the same as discipline?
Yes, indirectly, yes. I see myself as forcing myself to have discipline, which it's funny. I want discipline. It's just become very hard for me. So it's just a battle every day.
So, how do you win that battle?
Forcing yourself to do something and seeing the momentum, seeing the progress, seeing the what you did and changing your inner thoughts to, oh wow, I just did something great for myself that helped myself. Maybe I should do more.
What have you said no to that has made a significant impact in your life?
Well, when I was doing my arts and culture blog, I used to like write reviews on concerts, albums, EPs, plays, musicals. And what I would do every weekend for 5 years, I went to theaters to see plays and bars to see concerts. And at the concerts, I love music, but 5 years every weekend of going to a bar and seeing drunk people and being offered drinks and seeing high people that are high and on drugs and noticing drug deals takes its toll on you. So saying no to that and getting out of that situation and ending my blog gave me the opportunity to look within myself again to find what I really should be doing with my life, which is what I'm doing now. And I'm going to be doing this until I'm dead for the rest of my life.
So that story makes me think that living with intention can shift, right? Your blog that you had for a while, for 5 years, it sounded like that very much was a part of you and it made sense for you to get into and to be doing. But at a certain point, it stopped serving you so well. And then it made sense to recalibrate. Is that fair to say?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I love music and I love theater and I love writing. So I was like, what can I do to write? And it was easy because it was like I get to go to free concerts and free theater and write about it. It seems fun. That's why I did it. But it's not sustainable because it wasn't it wasn't in me. It wasn't like the way I look at the motivation. There's outer and there's inner. The inner wasn't in me. It was outer motivation to go to concerts and get to go to theater. And yes, I was helping people, but it wasn't. It just it just wasn't in my heart anymore.
So it tended to some of the things, some of the needs, some of the desires, but not all of them. And certainly not being in your heart anymore sounds like a significant piece.
Yeah, that's when I knew it was time to go.
I wonder. It seems like a number of people out there would still likely continue doing that. Was there the temptation to keep doing it anyway?
Yes and no. I have always, in the back of my mind, thought it would be fun to do it, and I would love to do it. And still to this day, I would like to make a strictly theater blog because I would only have to go to shows and leave, and I wouldn't have to be in the bars, in with the musicians. And the reason I left the blog really is because the musicians and the environment of the bars. It just was it that didn't serve me. That didn't help me. That didn't help my mindset. It just that hurt my mindset. Even though I loved writing, I loved interviewing people. It just that like I said, it took a toll and it hurt. And I'm not a good drunk, and and being around that didn't help. I've been to concerts lately, like 3 years removed from that, and looked at it and been like, I made the right decision. I wanted, I can do this, but I have to greatly diminish how much I am in this situation.
Right. So it sounds like your vision for yourself has just gotten more specific, more particular. So you liked some of the things still,
Oh yeah,
but some of it's no longer working for you.
I love music, I love concerts. I just can't be in it. I can't
Yeah.
be around it because it just doesn't serve me. Doesn't help me mentally or emotionally.
Sound like some pretty good reasons not to
Yes,
continue doing it
I
that way.
thought so.
Yeah. What area in your life feels just about perfect?
My marriage is almost perfect. Like, my wife and I are very close. She's my best friend. We talk all the time. I don't talk as much as I'd like, but she's recognized that in me. So she's gotten little tricks that'll make me talk and make me open up. And
Like what? Like what?
funny story. We started dating in 2016, and I'm not a very good talker, so I'm very quiet. And she came up with this idea of what new and exciting things did you do today? And that makes me my story brain come up with something, and it makes me say, okay, this is what I did today, and I come up with a fantastical different story to tell her, and that makes me talk. And sometimes it's a dud, but there are more often than not, there are times when we're by the end of it, we're laughing so hard, we're crying, and my side hurts, and I can't breathe. Which is like, oh, that's the idea.
That's amazing.
It's a lot of fun.
So she taps into your identity as a writer
Yes,
in order to get you to talk.
yeah.
Yeah.
She's very creative too. She's a writer. She can draw, she can sing. So it helped be in a relationship with someone who's creative also, because she knows.
Yeah, you speak the same language.
Yes.
So you might have answered my next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Okay.
Who is someone you admire and what do you admire about them?
Well, there's a lot of people I admire. First, I'm going to see my wife, because I
Sure.
admire what she's been through, what she goes through, working hard to be better and to find out who she is. Beyond that, there's a few entrepreneurs I admire. Chase Jarvis is one. Evan Carmichael's another one. And other than that, just in general, anyone who goes through life working hard to be themselves and to be better than themselves and to make their lives better and to get through every day, because it can be really hard.
Yeah, those are pretty admirable qualities.
Me specifically, my self talk has mostly been bad. So it took a while to reframe things and change things and like turn it around.
So what do you imagine some people admire about you?
Um, how giving I am. I mean, I am. It's funny. I I'm giving more to other people than I am to myself. I care about people I know and love more than I myself. I love people more than I love myself, and that's been a struggle my entire life, because I'm getting better as far as confidence in myself and loving myself, but I still care about my friends and family, my wife, for example, and the rest of my family more than I do myself. So to answer your question, they would admire, I hope, how giving I am.
What would you like folks to know about you, about your mission?
My mission is to end the stigma of disability, improve accessibility, allow disabled people to go anywhere and do anything in life and make their lives better, because the Americans with Disabilities Act came out in 1990 and it was amazing. And before 1990, disabled people were had a lot more problems than they do now, but there's still a lot of work to be done. We still need to improve and move forward and change the way people in general perceive us, think about us, and interact with us. Because me specifically, there's three different ways that people think about me or talk to me. Like normal, which is the way I want to be treated and talked to. A lot of people think of me as a damsel in distress. They help me and do everything for me, thinking that I can't do anything, and or I get ignored. Like, there's been many times when my wife and I have been out, and they people have only spoke to her, like customer service people, hostesses, hosts, waiters, and waitresses. They talk to her and they ignore me. Even if I'm the one who asked them the question, they'll look at her and answer her my question. So that I want to change that. I want to open up the conversation and make the conversation better, and allow them to have a better flow of conversation and just break down the differences of what they think we can and cannot do so that it's just more fluid between us and them.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have to speak about us and them. I want everyone to be the same. Like the way I've said this, I've been saying this for years. If everyone helps everyone, everyone wins. That's my mantra.
Yeah. So what you're suggesting is that many people do view it as us versus them, not verse, but us in them.
Yes. Oh yeah, totally. I think because a lot of people think because they assume that we can't do something, they separate themselves from us. That's what I've noticed anyway from me.
So let's take that example, if we can, of you and your wife being at a restaurant or somewhere where there's a host or server and you're being ignored. What might you do in your best moments? What might you respond with?
My best moment. Okay, well,
Well, acknowledging, sometimes you're just annoyed that you have to even, say something.
I'll tell you, I'll tell you both best and worst.
Okay.
Best would be just excuse me. I'm the one who asked you the question. Can you speak to me, please? And then just open up the conversation and ask them why they felt they needed to address my wife rather than me. Now, in my worst moments, what I've actually done is I've moved my entire body in front of their eyes, blocking my wife, and said, "Hey, hey, hey, I'm over here." Not my best moment, but I was mad.
Yeah.
So I've done good and bad things.
Sure. Sounds reasonable. Perfectly reasonable, right? You're
Yeah.
dealing with a situation that most able-bodied individuals don't have to consider.
Yeah.
How do you approach the conversation? I imagine you've run into this at some point, I would think. People responding defensively
Hmm.
to when you call them out. What do you do in those instances?
That's funny because that's happened too. I would just explain to them why I was trying to express to them my point of view, and hopefully that'll come across. There's been another thing. There's been many times when I've been out rolling, and I'll roll up a hill or an incline, whatever, and someone will out of nowhere come up from behind me and start pushing me, and I'll stop them and say no, thank you, and they'll get mad at me, like I'm trying to help you. Like, just explain to them what you mean and why you said no, thank you, and if I need help, I'll ask for it. But the thing that bothers me about people pushing me and why I ask them to stop is because for me personally, it's a personal space issue. If you don't know me, don't touch me. That's the whole one. If I ask for it, go ahead. But if I don't ask for it, don't touch me unless you know.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's anybody.
Yeah, that's interesting that someone might get defensive because in their mind, they're doing what they feel is a good thing. But meanwhile, they
Yeah,
never asked you for it. They've just made assumptions.
exactly.
Well intentioned as it may have been, that wasn't the reality, right?
No, I mean, yes, there's will intentions, and that's all good, and I appreciate that. But you also have to think of the other person and what they want, and not just, okay, I'm going to do my good deed for the day, or I'm going to help this person out. If they don't need it or they don't want it, don't do it. That's all.
I think you've just highlighted the point here that most don't think that way. They don't consider
Exactly.
the other perspective, right?
Yeah. And for me, like, I'm a bullhead. I'm stubborn. I'm the kind of guy that I'll do something, fall on my face, get up, and do it again before I ask for help. So like, it's just for anybody who lives in that situation, who's disabled, you just have to read the room, recognize who's around you, and just wait. Just wait a second. If they ask you your help, help them. But if they don't. That's all.
Well, everything you're saying sounds like common sense. However, it sounds also like it's just an additional filter, additional layer that you have to consider having a disability that able-bodied folks don't really have to consider, reading a room.
Yeah. Being able-bodied and having a different perspective, yes, you have to think differently, but that goes along with, I think, having conversations with disabled people and asking them questions. Like, I've known people who are disabled who hate questions. I love questions. The more the merrier. Ask me anything you want. Know more about me, because I think that opens up the lens of communications and it'll break down the barriers, I think.
So you're talking about having conversations about your disability, not just conversations with you about, how the local sports team did.
Yeah, definitely. Specifically what my disability is, what I can and cannot do, what I need help with, what I don't need help with, anything about that specifically. Because to me, people have asked me what the worst thing about my disability is. And my answer always is able-bodied people's perception of me based on my disability, not the disability itself.
Yeah.
I can do anything. I can't jump. I can't run, but who cares?
You might not want to run. A lot of people don't want to run.
Exactly. And like most able-bodied people, they have to stand up all day. I can just sit down most of the day. So it's all good.
Michael, what's an example of a conversation that went really well, that gave you some hope for humanity?
Nothing really specifically comes to mind.
Well, that's kind of depressing.
I know, right? I've sadly very rarely had deep conversations with people. There have been a few. I can't think of any right now, but there have been a few that were deep, and like that was a good conversation. The last one that was good was years ago, that I can think of anyway. It was about music. It was just about music and life. It wasn't specifically about my disability. It was just a lot about life. It was about interests and what you love. And it was while I was still doing the blog, but it was definitely reaffirming.
Reaffirming about what?
What you love to do, what you're passionate about, your interests. It was specifically about music, but I'm very into music. I love music. And I can't, even though I don't do the blog anymore, I can't like surround myself with concerts anymore. It still speaks to me. I still think of it often. I can't live without it, hearing it or thinking about it, because to me, songs, the first thing I think about is the lyrics, and it's the stories are at the forefront for me. And lyrically, that's what is makes music as important as it is for me. It's just stories and interests and passions. Because like when I write partially because when I'm done, I feel refreshed emotionally, mentally, in every way other than physically. I feel new and refreshed, and it just definitely re-energizes me, and that itself gives me a new hope for life.
It's not a bad idea.
Thank you.
Michael, what else would you like to share with folks, if anything?
Not really anything. I just think about your fellow man and woman, ask questions, want to be engage with them, and want to know them. Help the people you think need help, and if they ask for it, just do what you can to change the world. Do what you can to make your imprint. Find your passion, and look to yourself and try and figure out who you are so you can improve yourself and the world.
That's it. Very nicely said.
That's it.
Yeah, Michael, thanks for your time today, and thanks for
Thank you, man.
considering all these questions and spending time with me. Really appreciate it.
Of course. It's a great conversation.
Likewise.
Really enjoyed it.
This has been Intentionally Ever After, hosted by intentional lifestyle coach Joe Bukartek. If you would like to have your own intentional conversation with Joe on or off the air, visit intentionallyeverafter.com. Thanks for listening.